This is Nathan Slaughter. Welcome to this video all about the for loop in C++. This is one of the fundamental aspects of code control. The for loop is the control structure that we use to express repetition. And it's one of the fundamental ones. C++ has added some really modern stuff recently, and it's just great. The language has kept up and modernized and made some great expressions. So let's do loop inf as our file name. And notice here while we were talking, I put in this header, include IOStream. We've seen that before. And basically it's just telling it I want those neat, convenient ways to do input and output on the command line, though in this video we're going to stick with output using namespace standard. And then, all these things you've seen before, these just setting up for us a place int main or a main function, a place for the compiler to know that this program gets kicked off. And so now to our for loop. For, and that's it. We have almost written, we need that. Okay, now we have a for loop. It has a body, there's nothing in it, but this is a for loop. It doesn't tell very much. Let's give it a body. Okay, this prints forever. Now, we have a for loop with a body, but the operating system doesn't know, the compiler doesn't know how many times to repeat this. It doesn't know when to stop repeating it, most importantly. What's going to happen is the code will see, oh, here's main, I start executing. Oh, there's nothing on this line, nothing to do. We compile that out. And then we have a for statement. Okay, I know to do what's inside of a for statement, and then I know to go back up and repeat what's inside of a for statement. And it does that. And so let's see what that looks like. This, I think, is fun. There are some uses for programs like this, believe it or not, for this particular way of expressing a for loop. So now, and we've already seen this as well, how to compile, but don't forget, you need to do this hundreds of times. Every day, a few times. Compile a program. Always compiling a program. And what did we call it? Loop inf. And as soon as the compiler does its magic, there we go. Now, and sure enough, this does in fact print forever. Don't run this until you know exactly how to make your console or your command line bail. And for mine, it's Control C. I'm on Windows, so I'm going to say Control C. I think on most consoles, it's going to be something like Command C, depending on your keyboard, Control C, something along those lines. That's pretty typical, but it can be really frustrating if you don't know what it is and you have launched a program that repeats forever, like the one that we just designed. So just a word of caution there. Don't want you to pull your hair out and have to do a hard reset to get control of your machine again. Okay, so let's go back and consider what the actual elements are that we left out of a typical for statement. A for statement most commonly initializes something right here, but this isn't necessarily initialization. This is a statement, a clause. So I'm going to say int I equals 0. Now this has a unique effect. I both declared the integer and I initialized it by setting a value in I. Now the unique effect here is that the for loop is considered the scope of I. And scope can be a really long conversation. We can talk day and night for quite a while about what scope means in programming languages. Let's sum it up in this case and just say it means that the program will only know about the existence of I, and I will only have a value in the highlighted space on my screen right now. That's from the for down to the closed curly brace. So I comes into being right there with the declaration, and it goes out of being when we get out of the for. So that is kind of a clue about what scope means. We know the span of existence of I now. So now let's say I less than 10. This is a condition. If we leave the condition part of a for loop empty, the the compiler rather, will insert what's called a non-zero constant. It has a truthy value, meaning that it will get evaluated to true, and that would put us in that infinite loop zone. All you have to do to get the infinite loop we got earlier, right there. So if you want to bail out of a for loop and you haven't put something here, you need to figure out a way to bail on a condition that comes down here. Now, that's not very good programming practice. I don't think that makes sense most of the time. You either want an infinite loop or use something up here because that's where other programmers are going to look for this. I'm not thinking of a good exception right now, but if you do think of a good exception, go for it. Just beware. You're going to surprise some people with that code. Okay, and then this final third piece of a for loop is incrementing by 1. When you say plus plus on a variable in C++, it just means step it up, plus 1. So here we go. Now, instead of saying this prints forever, because it no longer prints forever, I want to say ith time. Okay. I want to say something like that. Now, let's compile this and use all of the same things that we used last time as far as our commands, because we haven't changed the name of the file. We left it loopinf. We'll be just a little bit lazy here. Okay. 0th time, 1th time, 2th time. Do you see what's happening here? And then at 9th time, this part goes to false. It was true from the 0 start, that's where we start the loop, right here, to when we went through it 9 times, or we went through it, I'm sorry, rather 10 times, because we started at 0. And then that next time, it was at 10, so this did not execute. This only executes while it's less than 10. So when that condition went to false, we no longer got our execution in the program. So this for loop is one of the most common control structures that you will see inside of programming languages: for and if. For expressing repetition, if for expressing essentially logical branching. So you'll see this over and over in many forms, and don't worry about all the different forms that we will eventually see. I don't know if I'm even going to show you the other ways that you can express this for concept right now, because really, I've seen languages leave the other ways out. I've seen teachers leave the other ways out and just use for. I've seen them use even less than for. And the reason for that is there are tons of different ways to express these things, and each of them might be a little more fit for one particular situation. But you can use one of these things and it can be like your Swiss Army knife. And what I've just showed you about for, I think, is like your Swiss Army knife. And if you really get down the concepts of what's happening and you pay attention to that part of it, then you're going to have no trouble learning the additional concepts when you need them and when you want to expand your horizons a little bit. It'll just all fit together in the framework that you've learned about for. So focus some attention here on learning the three unique parts, the opening clause where we assigned something, and then the condition that was evaluated, and the statement where we changed something relevant to the condition so that eventually that condition would be something other than true. So learn these components and learn how it operates like that. You'll be very well served in continuing to expand on that foundation with your knowledge of C++. See you in the next video.